Disclaimer, just because we do it doesn't mean you should. Check. We have sound. All right, are you ready to get started?
I am.
Excellent.
And you?
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Jeff and Adam Build a Zenith. This time, it's actually both of us. I'm Adam. This is Jeff. And we're going to do some Q&A stuff because you guys have questions, and that's really cool. And so now that you actually have questions, it's a lot easier to talk to specific questions instead of just like start from nowhere and then just be like, because there's just so much information. Yeah, so it's great to have some specific questions.
This is good.
Oh, happy birthday, Roger.
Oh, that's right, Roger.
I think your birthday was yesterday.
Saturday, something like that, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So by the time this comes out, it will have been a little while. But happy birthday. And what else was I going to say?
Yeah, Zenith Open House is coming up at the end of September.
Oh, yeah.
Those who can, go. It's awesome.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that we were asked, is if we were going to be at the open house this year, and we are not. Hopefully we'll be flying in next year in this thing.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, that would be really cool. In case you are brand new to the channel or something like that, my dad and I are building this Zenith 750 Cruzer airplane in our garage, and that's kind of the whole premise of this channel and everything. So,
we're getting to work together and learn how to communicate far better than we ever thought we would.
I would say so. We still have a ways to go.
Definitely.
But yeah, definitely the communication is good. One more thing. So you're watching this video right now. This video is probably going to be kind of out of sequence because I just want to get this video out there so that way it's not delayed and stuff. And then, and if you have any other questions that we don't talk about, put them in the comments section below, and then we'll talk about them on the next Q&A, something like that. Okay, I think that's
You ready to take
that's
some
good.
questions?
Yeah, and that we already did our first question, which is, are we going to be at the open house this month? And that's no.
No, gotta keep building.
Martin Nile asks, what other engines did you consider? What were the deciding factors for choosing ULPower?
Wow.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. We were leaning toward a Viking for a long time, I think.
We were, yeah, definitely. I will say, well, it's funny when you make decisions, like, I don't know, it could even be like a big decision, but once you make the decision, you kind of forget about why you made the decision, because that doesn't really matter, because what matters is that you made the decision, and then you just kind of go from there. But I will say that I personally did not want like a traditional aviation style engine like a Lycoming or a Continental, because I've worked with those, and they're just big and messy and heavy and pretty inefficient, and a lot of I've seen so many that just don't want to start for one reason or another, and oftentimes just because it's like, a hot day, and then they shut the engine down, and then it doesn't want to start up, and the normal sound that I hear, when people are going to go fly is like, and not that they're all trash, but I just wanted to do something.
Not that they're all.
I just wanted to do something different.
It's all the 172s
something
we
that
were
was just something that used modern technology, especially because we actually can, because we don't need type certified engines. So yeah, I would say that would be a big factor.
The Rotax, I think the gearbox for us was
because I was looking at Rotax engines recently, and I don't know a whole lot about like the other engines, so I'm not saying I don't want to like. I'm just kind of generalizing here, I guess. But the Rotax, I remember when we were looking at that, it was more expensive, and it had a gearbox, and I think Rotax has some other stuff like liquid cooling.
That's right. That's it.
And so basically, it's more complicated, and that it might be good or bad depending on what you want to do. I mean, if Rotax is your thing, that's great, but for us,
it's more expensive too.
Yeah, and then also the maintenance because of that gearbox and other stuff. So that's the thing. I think Rotax is a bit more complicated, but I haven't really like studied up on them. So that's all I can think of.
Yeah, that was pretty good
at the moment. Are you taking interested guests to the garage? We'd love to see the build. Yes, it's going to be about 500 a head. It's going to be like a 1,500 cap for families.
Well,
No, no, I don't know. We're not sure.
It's all we can do to keep building and produce video.
Yeah. If you're like local and you really, or you're actually building, or you really like want to, want to like see it hands on.
And if you're in the local Charlotte chapter of the EAA, absolutely.
Yeah. Send us an email at terryaviation@gmail.com, and we can kind of go from there. But if there is something that you want to specifically see, like have us make a video about and talk about, do let us know, because I think we'd be happy to do that. Daryl Deerwitcher says, I just started my Cruzer build, wondering what % of the kit pieces are final hole size drilled. That's a good question, Daryl.
It's a lot more. I think, you know what? It's a lot. It's at least 80%, wouldn't you say? Well, now,
see, that's funny, because I was almost gonna say that, like
50%.
almost the opposite. But well, the thing is because he's talking about, I think, final hole size. So that means you don't even have to drill. You don't even have to size up. Which I've done a lot of sizing up. So I don't know. Zenith would probably have a better answer for you.
It's at least north of 50%.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not sure. The good thing is that most, like definitely, I would say 90% or more, maybe, or something like that. A lot of the pilot holes are already drilled. So you already have pilot holes, and that's a huge deal, because having to lay out the holes and the rivet spacing and measuring and stuff, that takes a lot of time. So just having the pilot holes is really great. But as far as final hole size, I don't know. Honestly, I can't remember.
I think these were final size. Although, I mean, we still had a max drill a lot, too.
No, those weren't final holes.
They weren't? Okay.
No.
I'm going to change my answer then, like 50% then.
I don't know, 50 maybe. I'm not really sure. But here's the thing. See, I think, Zenith, if you're watching this, if you can get it to where like everything is final hole size,
oh man,
that would be amazing. And I think Zenith is trending towards, it gets easier to build every year, I would say. But definitely, if it could actually be the kind of thing where you get the parts and all the holes are like deburred and the right size.
Deburred, that would be best.
And everything,
that would
and
be
then
awesome.
You just like Cleco it together and rivet it. That's where the something is. That's what you want.
That's the magic.
Yeah, that would be super great. Scott Reinl says, great videos. Did you consider any other engines? If so, which ones and why did the UL win? Well, thank you, Scott. I'm glad you like them.
Oh, you know what? The other thing about the UL was the MoGas and AvGas.
Bingo.
That was it.
That was the other thing. Yeah, that was the other consideration, was that we wanted something that would run automotive gas primarily, but could also run aviation 100 low lead. So that's another reason. Yeah, and that's pretty much. I would say he says, what other engines did we consider? I would say probably the runner up was the Viking engines.
The Viking Honda setup.
Yeah, the Honda engine with I guess like the gearbox and stuff, and that's all from Viking, the Viking engine company guy. Jan. Yeah, I think it's Jan. Yeah. Yeah, we ended up not going with that because we felt like ULPower had a little bit more infrastructure and kind of support in terms of like all the parts, and of course now I'm realizing that they don't. I mean, they don't have as much as I would have thought in the U.S. because it's pretty new to the U.S. It's very new to the U.S. Yeah, so that's what we kind of settled on, and also we still weren't crazy about having a gearbox and all that kind of stuff. And right now, or at least when we were deciding, the Viking engines with the Honda engine conversion, it still feels like a little bit too. I was about to say too experimental, but
I think you were headed that way. I think the way I look at it is ULPower has a aviation. The block is built for an aviation use and so continuous RPM, all those things.
Yeah.
They use automotive parts on the, like the oil filters and some of the other pieces, and so that's fine. And they use all high grade stuff, so it's, basically think BMW, Mercedes quality, and Ducati. Yeah, I got Ducati, and so definitely they've got the quality on the parts. But the bottom line is the core is built and engineered for a continuous operation at full, essentially full power or cruise power. So the way you need to think about this when you pick out your engine is, so what are the pieces that really matter, and think, cylinder head, temperature, think all of those kinds of factors in the thought process. And that's what really drove it for us. I think as we got into this more, we realized that we needed something that was from the core of the engine, purpose built, and we could, everything around it could be not so much, because automotive technologies come so far and matured well beyond what general aviation type certified can support at this point. And so that's why we really felt like it made a lot of sense to go the ULPower route. Now it's a little bit more expensive than Viking, and that's certainly a factor, but we felt that made sense.
Well, and then the other thing also with since it's the automotive engine, it's also liquid cooled. So you do have that other factor of the liquid cooling.
Oh, that's true.
And that's something. It's not like it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just it's more complicated. It's more complicated. It is something else to fail. Of course, we still have oil cooling, but we also have air cooling for the cylinder heads. So yeah, I feel like ULPower is a pretty good crossover, and I think from what I've read on them, that's why people like them, because they check a lot of boxes that other engines can't. They don't have quite as much coverage in different areas.
Agreed.
RJ Tech asks, how long does it take to build the Zenith 750 Cruzer, and or what type of flight rating do you need to fly it? So I'll answer the second question first. We're going to be flying this like you would fly just like a private pilot license. So the first part of the question, how long does it take to build? Well, I don't know. We'll let you know when we're done.
Well, that's, the way I would answer that, it takes you twice as long to build the first one than the second one.
Yeah, and so it's, okay, so in case you haven't seen any of the other videos, we've been building for about a year now, just over a year. So it's taken at least a year to build this one. I think if I build another one, I think I could build it in a year. I think so. So I'm going to say we're probably on a trend of about another year of building. Because it's so hard to tell. It's so hard to tell, especially when it's your first time, because it's like, well, this whole process could go super smoothly, or we could mess up some parts, or have to totally redo something, or
how many times have we
not
done
have
that?
a part.
How many times that happened?
And we have to get a part, or we just don't know what the heck is going on, and it takes us a few weeks to actually figure out what to do and when to do it and how to do it. So it takes a while, but I would say it's gonna. I would say plan on spending a lot of time. Like I would say 3 years.
Yeah, I would say
3 years.
Yeah, I would.
Don't set your expectations high.
Correct, and I would also say that if you go into this, find a build partner or somebody you can build with, because just having someone to talk to about all the nuanced problems that you'll run into or opportunities for solving, you're going to need that person to kind of bounce ideas off of. And like the two of us are pretty bouncy. Yeah, we bounce a lot of ideas off each other. But what's cool though is we have like a combination of skill sets to be able. I'm the chief administrative officer for this effort, and then he's our chief builder mechanic, and
So it works out well. I mean, like in a lot of the videos that I put out, it's just me building, and that's because I do most of the building, or at least now that we have a lot of the 2-person jobs done, like with the fuselage and that sort of thing. But he's still building the plane, when he's at his day job, and I'm here building, because you gotta have the money to build the plane, and that's just how aviation is. It's unfortunate because it doesn't have to be that way, and building an experimental plane can potentially be like a lot cheaper. So like it just kind of depends though. But
Yeah,
I mean, it's
I'd
still,
say that building this is a lot cheaper than buying a new one of these.
oh yeah, it's gonna be like a lot cheaper in terms of just like monetary cost. Of course, it's gonna take you like a lot of time. So it's that finding that balance. But anyway, yeah. So that we actually make a pretty good team in that regard. And in fact, maybe it's good actually that because if you were like a mechanic or something, and then I was a mechanic because we'd have like a American Chopper situation on our hands, and then you would be like, why did you do it like that? And I'd be like, well, that's the way it, whatever. And so maybe that's good actually.
Yeah, we don't have those.
Because then I trust you with the other stuff, the
figuring it out,
whatever it is. Yeah, a lot of the boring stuff, and certification stuff and all that kind of thing.
Are we going to talk about that, the FAA checklist and all that? We didn't get to it. Well, maybe we'll do a video on that.
Not now.
We'll do that separately.
There's way too much to talk about for one video.
Yeah.
We'll do another video about how to not kill your build partner too. Probably. Oh yeah, Darren Towers asks, a few times you have mentioned a mod for the horizontal mount for the higher horsepower engine. I'm trying to find out more info on that. Good question, Darren. Yes, that's well, if I think I understand what you're talking about, that's the service bulletin on the horizontal stabilizer, because I guess somebody was using a ULPower 350 IS engine with 130 horsepower, which is what we have on here, and they were noticing cracking, I believe, in the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer. And I guess that's I guess they were able to correlate that enough to the engine that they said, hey, if you have this kind of engine, you might want to think about reinforcing the horizontal stabilizer, which is another project that we haven't gotten into yet.
We built the horizontal stabilizer.
Yeah, we built it. Yeah. We built the horizontal stabilizer promptly, like right after, we finished it like right after the thing came out, and we didn't realize
bulletin came out, right?
Yeah, the bulletin. So anyway, I will try and put links in the description of this video to the bulletin. I think some of the information, I don't know if it's on like the Zenith Builder website where it's like password protected, but I'm not sure. But whatever I can dig up on that, I will put that in the description text below. And
put the link to it.
Yeah, that's all I can think of on that one. But that's a good question though. And actually, it was a YouTube commenter that said, "Oh, hey guys, they just put out this thing. That's a bummer for you." And I was like, "Yeah, that is a bummer. Ooh, wow."
Well, thank you to that person.
That's super frustrating, but it is actually great that person, whoever you are, let us know.
That was good.
I mean, we probably wouldn't have died or anything.
Immediately, no.
No, but we'd have to like do all this stuff later. And actually, well, what you're supposed to be able to do is not even have to take it off of the airplane. That's the whole thing. Is it's like sleeves or whatever. And so, but we have to. We got to figure. That's a lot of thinking involved in there. Have you set target deadlines for your build, or is it completely one day at a time? That's a good question, Scott. I would say
we started out that way.
Yeah, I've learned that you're going to get it done when you get it done, and you can really dig yourself into a hole like a grave if you try to set deadlines for yourself and you really don't know how long something's going to take. That's the thing. If I built a plane just like this again, I could go, oh yeah, that'll probably take about that long. But it's our first time, so we have no idea. We have a better idea now after a year of building, but really what it is that I've learned is that you just don't know. I've learned enough to think like, okay, well, there might be some huge problem that comes up. So I'm not going to try and say we need to get this thing done by this time, or we're going to flight test by this time. So
yeah. Most of the timing things are really related to when do you order the engine, when do you need to get the bare metal parts powder coated, when do you need to order your prop, when do you need to start your process of getting your tail number. All those are big dates that you could kind of throw out there, and only from a financial planning perspective. But the build activity, it's really hard to say. And the most important tip I think we ever got was don't build when you don't feel like it. I think that's probably number one.
Yeah.
And don't do something if you don't absolutely know what you're about to do or why you're about to do it and what you're expecting to have happen.
So that's a good point as far as there are some things that you can schedule in terms of like when you have to purchase stuff. Like we're just now about to purchase our avionics and stuff and do like, electrical system type stuff. And that's something that means absolutely nothing when you're working on the aft fuselage and putting stuff together. So, so like it's just, but yeah, mostly one day at a time, pretty much. He also asks, do you have another airplane available to fly while you are building? I wish we did, but no, this is actually our first airplane. He also asked, what other kits did you consider and what was it about the Zenith that was the deciding factor?
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I did a lot of the kit research and I sold you on this idea.
He did, and I can tell you the one thing that sold me, that got him to convince me to do this crazy thing was the fact that Zenith uses pop rivets or blind rivets, because I have done traditional riveting with the bucking bar and all that sort of stuff, and it's fun if you have to do just like a couple little things. But I was like, no, Dad, this you don't seem to understand. Like every little rivet, you have to like take this piece of steel and this like thingy, and then and then you gotta like check it, and if it's not right, you have to drill it out. And they're like solid rivets, and there's So that's basically that's why I was like, you're crazy. We're not going to build a plane. But then you said, oh yeah, they're all just these pop type rivets, and I was like, okay, now that seems doable. And I will say I would have quit a long time ago if it was regular rivets. So I think I would say that's a ginormous factor, just that alone, just the rivets. Especially if you're not like familiar with airplane building and stuff. So that's the biggest one. But were there any other kits that you were actually considering?
Yeah, I looked at the Kit Fox. I looked at a couple of those tail draggers, and because I really like the idea of like flying a Piper Cub or Super Cub. In fact, I actually looked at the Super Cub for quite a while. But then I thought, okay, well, do I, like the idea of a tail dragger from like off airport kind of scenario, but for the kind of flying we're doing, I was looking for something that had a higher cruise speed and a tricycle gear, because if you think about, we've only been flying 172s, 152s, so we're really comfortable flying like a tricycle gear setup. And if you think of the transition from that to a Zenith, it's a lot smoother. It's funny, I was reading Chris Hines' book, and he talked about why he chose to go with tricycle gear, and one of the factors was the type of pilot they would typically build and fly these, and so that was a big factor for me. And the other thing too is I felt like Zenith more affordable than a Cub Crafter for sure, and I like the idea of being able to see down the runway.
Oh yeah, right.
On takeoff.
Right. And what's the name of that book, just in case people are interested?
Great question. I have no idea, but it's on the Zenith website.
Okay, yeah, but it was written by Chris Hines about like how he designed it.
Yeah, and Chris Hines is the person who designed all the Zenith aircraft. I think all the 701, 801, the Cruzer, all these. So
CH Chris Hines.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what it is. So I think that answers the question pretty well. Little Wing PSC27 asks, did you ever consider the CH801, or what were your reasons for picking the 750 Cruzer versus the Stoll or the 750 Super Duty? The 801, I'm not even sure if that's like,
do they have?
It's not really. I mean, they're around, but like I think that's more. I don't know. I haven't seen any at the factory. Yeah, I think it's a Canadian thing. So we don't.
Yeah, we don't do
that Canadian thing. No, that's not what it is. It's that's a 4-person, right? I think it's okay. Yeah, so that's a 4-person.
Yeah. We're looking at 2 people because I wanted something with enough space to be comfortable for my wife and I, or son and I, and that we wouldn't be like squished in there. And I didn't want to be tandem. I wanted to be side by side,
right?
Because the whole point would be talking to the person, not looking at their head.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That was a big part of it. And the
so they're
Not the
basically
Stoll.
asking why the Cruzer versus all the other
Yeah.
Zenith models.
So the other Zenith models, from looking at your average cruise speed and the fact that, realistically, we're not going to be doing off-airport operations. And I really like the Cruzer setup as a on-airport with a little bit faster cruise speed, a lot more forgiving aerodynamic profile with engine failure, that kind of thing. So I really liked if you think about our mission is to be able to fly out to the beach in North Carolina, do it effectively and with, enjoying the trip. And this is what this came down to.
So basically, like, it didn't need to be a 4-seater. Also, that's more to build, and everything about it is just, it makes
More.
it heavier and stuff. And you don't need short takeoff capabilities because we're talking airports.
Right.
And the 750, the Super Duty. I don't think the Super Duty. I mean, I guess it was out, but it wasn't really.
Still, it was very early.
Seemed
days
like it wasn't
of Super
really a
Duty.
thing at the time when we
It
started.
was a
building.
magazine thing because I saw the cover, but
It was,
was.
I don't know a whole lot about the Super Duty. I guess you can basically it's
bigger.
The wings will take. Yeah, I guess it is a bit bigger, and the wings will, allow for more weight. You can carry more weight, and there's also like a third-person jump seat, which seems kind of weird because if you were going to make a Super Duty, it seems like you just want to make like a 4-person thing, but I don't know. Because I don't know if any other planes are just a 3-person plane. Like that's kind of strange. I would feel like the third wheel all the time if I was sitting in the back. But anyway, so that's why. This person asks, are you building an experimental or will this have a different classification? Did resale value ever factor into your decisions? So like we said, this is going to be experimental. And did resale ever factor in? No, I don't think.
Well, so here the thing. The story with resale is this: when you start buying these parts, you'll never get that money back unless you make it to an airplane. So once you start down the path, right now what we have is a bunch of aluminum, got a motor, maybe a prop over there, and in aggregate, the individual components are not going to bring anything from a resale unless you get it into an aircraft. So that's the bottom line. And I guess the answer on the resale side is really it's all about market, what the demand is, and who built it and how well they built it. So for us, with all the documentation and with him being an airframe power plant mechanic, there's a level of comfort and confidence, there's a word, that you get with that you wouldn't necessarily get with others. So I think the resale value really depends, and we didn't think about it because we're really thinking about holding on to this for like a couple of generations.
Yeah, like we didn't. Yeah, as far as like, did we think about like, well, maybe we'll sell it? No. I would say not at all. I didn't really ever think about it. We're gonna fly this thing until it falls out of the sky, pretty much.
But we'll have parachutes, okay?
Yeah, of course. That would actually be a pretty crazy thing if like there was a plane and like you just knew like it had like one last flight left in it, and then you just like fly it out over the ocean or something, and then you just like see ya, and then you just
fail out.
Go out of there, and then
somebody picks you up in a boat.
That'd be crazy.
James Bond style.
Oh, ooh yeah, a boat. Ooh, we should build a boat. Oh, we could be a float plane. We could build a float.
There you go.
We
can put floats on this.
We could. I don't know if I would.
Can you imagine?
I don't know. Putting something like this on the water, you don't really think about that type of stuff until you actually build a plane, and then you're like, oh wow, that water's kind of deep and watery, and if you screw up, like it's not like you can just pick up the pieces. You got to like scuba dive for the pieces, so it's extra scary.
Yeah, and I remember flying in this Chinook, and when you did a water landing, it took lots of hours in the shop after that to get everything squared away. So. Oh
really?
Yeah.
Wait, you mean like because you weren't supposed to land?
No, you can land in the water and bring it to a hover and fast boat out the back and all that for operations. But
yeah.
The fact of the matter is, you go then it's like 6 hours I think of maintenance time.
Oh wow, that they just to get all the water out and
water's
stuff
out and everything's working correctly.
Dang, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So you don't just go do it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think we should just go do this.
Yeah, I definitely would not. I would not do that at all. Definitely not. Mauricio Pringle, maybe that's how you pronounce it, says, "Hi, I'm from Costa Rica. I just want to thank you for sharing your experience of building a plane. Thank you." Thank you. Mauricio, I hope that's your name. That's really cool that you're in Costa Rica and that you can see what we're doing here in North Carolina. Also, there's somebody from the Netherlands, so I'm not sure who it was, but hi, hello Netherlands from North Carolina. That's pretty cool.
It is.
Also, Mike Patey, hi Mike. Thanks for commenting on one of our videos. That's pretty cool. Like that's like it's pretty cool. I don't have many people that I get excited about because they're just people or whatever. But Mike Patey is like he's like the Chuck Norris of experimental building. It's like, you know what I mean?
Oh yes. Well, the Chuck Norris that doesn't sleep.
Yeah. Mike Patey just like looks at the parts really hard and they start assembling themselves. Oh man, that would be cool. Another thing that someone asked us about is the rivet gun. And we should probably get these rivet guns just to show the kind of people. Okay. So another thing that somebody asked about was the rivet guns and what kind of rivet gun this one is, because this is we have like our standard rivet gun that came from Zenith. Did it come from Zenith? Yeah. From Zenith. It's like your classic rivet gun, and there's like no markings on it, so I don't even know. I can't even think of what brand it is. But then there's this other one. It's actually made of plastic. It's like
completely
a
polymer plastic, and it's really cool because the trigger is I like this trigger a lot better.
Yeah, here you talk about it. I'll get a little bit closer so people can see.
Yeah, so what that is a much more compact gun, and what we did is we set up one for A4 rivets and one for A5 rivets, and that way we're not switching back and forth. What I found really interesting is that being all polymer, it's a lot lighter, and the barrel of the rivet gun is a little narrower, so it can get into just fractionally narrower spaces, but that little narrowness makes a big difference. Yeah. So I think I would recommend it. I would say that you need lots of TLC for all your rivet guns, but that one has run really well.
You mean like putting drops of oil in the...
Yeah, I always put about 1 drop of oil in the 3-in-1 oil in the gun each time before I use it for the day, so that just the internals are lubricated.
Yeah, and so like close up, you can see this one's just got like a little trigger, like a normal trigger. You gotta be careful to not get that trigger. I don't know why there's not a trigger guard. But this one is a big old handle. The thing about the handle is you squeeze the handle and you're more likely to kind of like move the whole thing.
Right.
I feel like, and it's weird. It's just kind of awkward. It's really heavy over here. This one it's lighter, and you just got that. So I like it. It's I don't know if it'll hold up, for 20 years of building or something, but
at least one airplane worth, and it's cheaper too. By the way,
it is cheaper. Yeah.
Lighter, cheaper, simple trigger, gives you the ability to keep your guns set up for what you're doing, so you have to keep switching. A
little bit smaller barrel. Yeah. It's great. So I'll put a link in the description text to this if I can find it. I think we got it from Amazon.
Yeah,
and also like the name of it and all that sort of stuff if you're interested in that, which you should be because it's a pretty good rivet gun. Anyway, I feel like that went pretty well for a first Q&A. So boom.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody, and stay tuned. We got more videos and build stuff coming, and back to work, back to building, as Mike Patey would say, and John's thing is let's get back to building, and then Mike Patey's thing is all right, back to work.
That's right. So we need something.
What's our thing going to be? How about here we go again?
That's good. Here we go again.
Here we go again.